My name is Paula Collins, and I'm an attorney in New York, New York. I serve clients all over the state of New York, as well as a few clients in the state of Missouri, where I am also licensed. I like to respect the fact that by the time somebody contacts me, either through text, my website, or through direct telephone call, they've really struggled a lot with making that phone call to a bankruptcy attorney. And so I've put together this video to help you kind of know what's the process like? What's going to happen once you decide to start working with a bankruptcy attorney? Bear with me a moment while I share my screen. There we go. So again, my name is Paula Collins, and my practice is called the Law Office of Paula Collins. The first thing your attorney will want to know is, of course, some basic information, full legal name, any other names you've used in business or credit accounts, your address, former address if you've lived there less than 1 year, telephone number, social security number, date of birth. Now, let me back up a second. I said the first thing your bankruptcy attorney will want to know. That's really after you've made the decision to file, and that's not easily embarked upon. Your bankruptcy attorney will want to talk to you and ask, what's going on? Why is it that you called a bankruptcy attorney today? You might describe a wage garnishment. You might describe just this overwhelming debt. And I'm hearing a lot of that where people are really, they haven't even fallen behind yet, but they know that it's coming and they're struggling every single month. And they're only making the minimum payments, or else they're in a situation where they're paying Visa, but paying late on MasterCard, or paying the cable bill, not paying the electric bill, and everything is just a little bit out of sync each and every month. I get a lot of calls like that. That's a sign that you really should start talking to a bankruptcy attorney. Your attorney, before you decide to file, will ask you some things like, have you ever filed before? Because, of course, in a Chapter 7 case, if you filed in the last 8 years, you can't file a Chapter 7 case again. You can file a Chapter 13 within 3 years under some circumstances. Your attorney will also ask, are you in danger of losing anything, such as a house or a car, or of having your wages garnished? And then they'll want to know something about your income because there are cutoffs for the Chapter 7. Of course, if you've run a business and your debts are primarily business debts, you can automatically qualify for a Chapter 7 if you're claiming those business debts in your bankruptcy. So, back to this slide. All of this information that you see here on this slide will be what we need to know once we've made the decision that bankruptcy is right for you at this time. Your attorney will pull a credit report and send it to you. Now, this is different from the Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax reports. So even if you've recently checked your credit report, your attorney will still ask for permission to pull your report. The reason is the court recognizes a certain kind of credit report, but perhaps more importantly, from my standpoint anyway, I need the credit report that feeds directly into the bankruptcy software. So we'll pull the credit report. I send a copy to my clients. I do that for a couple of reasons. One, I want to make sure that everything that's in the credit report is correct, that we're not looking at information that really isn't yours at all. And secondly, there are a lot of debts that don't show up on a credit report, things like medical bills, old cell phone bills, old utility bills. Even traffic tickets in some cases can be discharged in bankruptcy, and so we want to include those. So I send the credit report to my clients, have them review it, and then we get back together and decide, gee, is this accurate? Do we need to add things? Do we need to take away things? There are urgent deadlines. Please let your attorney know right away if you're in danger of a foreclosure or an eviction. Also, if you've received such a notice, If you haven't yet received such a notice, sorry, I misspoke there. If you haven't yet received such a notice, do you expect to receive one soon? In which case we still need to act quickly. And another thing is, have you received a notice that you're being sued by a creditor? Usually you have about 20 days to respond to that. And of course, have your wages been garnished? Once we're in the working of it and we've really made the sure decision to move forward with your bankruptcy, which I really don't make that final decision until after we've had those conversations about the credit report, then we enter into an engagement period. And it's kind of like getting married, but not really. An engagement letter just outlines the services that I, as your attorney, will provide. It must be signed by both of us. It can be signed electronically. And in a case in which we're deciding that we're going to take a zero down or low down payment for your bankruptcy case, we'll actually sign two agreements. So I say that all along because I don't want you to get surprised at the end when I send you another letter to sign. Expenses. Part of putting together your bankruptcy petition is getting an idea of your regular fixed monthly expenses. We'll need to put that into the petition when we file it. This includes rent or mortgage, food for you and your dependents, utilities. That's a big part of it, right? Also, make sure if you are behind on any of the utilities, let your attorney know that. Car note, or if you don't drive a car, any transportation costs that you have. You'll also need to differentiate. You might have a car that you consider your car, but maybe it's not in your name. We need to have those conversations and know how to proceed from there. Cost of daycare. That's a big expense for a lot of families. Be sure to include that when you're reporting your expenses. We'll also need to get an idea of your current income. Now, if your income stays the same from paycheck to paycheck, we can open your case and proceed with filing with only one pay stub. But if your pay varies from paycheck to paycheck, we really need to look at several months of pay stubs in order to get an idea of the average that you earn each month. That's going to make a big determination in your qualification for Chapter 7. Please provide the proof of income if you freelance. For example, could you show your attorney contracts or invoices that you've sent out? And also, please indicate if you do share expenses with a non-filing spouse, we'll need to know how much money from that non-filing spouse goes toward the monthly expenses, because it kind of gets factored into the total income in the household. If you are not currently working, but you receive something like Social Security, workman's comp, or unemployment insurance, we'll need to see a benefits letter from that. And also provide information about the adjusted gross income from your last 2 years of tax returns. If you're a homeowner, we're going to need to look at your current statement. Even if you're behind, we need to see that statement. We will also need to eventually get a market assessment of the value of your property. If you have a car note or a car lease, we'll also need to see that. Really, all of these are called secured assets. So any asset like that, maybe you have a motorcycle or a boat or an RV, we need to see those statements for the secured assets. The court requires that before we can file your case, you must complete a credit counseling course. It's online or on the phone, takes about 45 minutes. The purpose is just simple financial education that the court is requiring before we can move forward. You'll continue through the course until you get to a screen that says, please print your certificate of completion. Now, you don't have to print it, but the fact that you get to that screen lets you know that the course is indeed complete, and then we'll import right into the software. Be aware that you will take another very similar course after we have filed your bankruptcy case, but please do not take both courses before we have filed. Otherwise, you'll have to go back in and take it again. Other things to know. Now, some people think that they could keep one or two credit cards off on the side that they're current on, but they need for car rentals or gasoline or what have you. You really can't do that in this day and age. The court systems are far too automated. All of the credit systems are far too automated for you to be able to do that. Also, the court frowns on that because it's something called it gets into something called preferences, where you're saying, well, I'll pay this person, but I won't pay this other person. Or I'll pay Visa, but I won't pay MasterCard, for example. And the court doesn't allow for that. Also be aware that once you file, there are automated systems that are tied in that many companies are connected with so that almost automatically they'll get information about your bankruptcy, even if they weren't part of your bankruptcy petition. The cell phone bill comes to mind, the electrical bill comes to mind, the cable bill. If you pull up your account, even within like 2 days of us filing, you might see right there in the account information in bankruptcy. While your case is pending, you enter into a period of time that with the trustee in which the trustee creates a bankruptcy estate. Your assets are not totally under your control during that time. That means that you're really not free to sell a house or get into any other big contract like that. If you're due an income tax refund or an inheritance, you'll need to speak up about that because technically within 6 months of filing, anything that comes into your estate, your income can be turned over to the court to surrender to creditors. Also, if it happens that you've forgotten about a creditor during that time, it's certainly very easy to go back and add a creditor. Really, we can add a creditor even after your case is closed. It's just a little more complicated then. So I hope that's answered your question. Certainly ask anything else that's out there, but I wanted you to have kind of a step-by-step idea of the process of filing bankruptcy.